Okay, today we're going to be talking about interpreting slope and y-intercept in context, and we're going to go with this problem here and talk about a few things that you will have to do in your wiser in just a few minutes. So the graph below shows the length of a boa constrictor where x is the time in weeks since the boa constrictor's birth and y is the length in inches. The boa constrictor was 30.4 inches at 8 weeks and 49.6 inches at 32 weeks. Those 2 points are labeled on the graph, even though you can't see the decimals real well on the graph. They kind of blend in, and it wants us to label the axes of the graph. So our x-axis is going to be x is time in weeks. So I'm going to come down here, put time and weeks. And then our y-axis is length in inches. So over here, I'm going to put length and inches. And then the next thing we need to do, we're going to have to write an equation to represent this situation. So we have 2 points. We have that at 8 weeks, because weeks is our x. So at 8 weeks, we were at 30.4 inches. And at 32 weeks, it was 49.6 inches. So the first thing we're going to do is find our slope. So we have m equals 49.6 minus 30.4 over 32 minus 8. And when we subtract 49.6 minus 30.4, we get 19.2. And 32 minus 8 is 24. Now, traditionally, we have been leaving our slopes as a fraction. When you have a slope with a decimal in it, you can go ahead and divide, and you usually will get a decimal that you can use. So that's what we're going to do. If you take 19.2 and divide by 24, you get 0.8, and that's that decimal that we're going to use. We're going to use 0.8. So now for our equation, we have y equals 0.8x plus b. So we need to decide which point we're going to use. And I'm going to record our slope up here. And then I'm going to choose to use that top point, 8 and 30.4. And I'm going to make some space here so that we can work the rest of this problem out. And then we're going to have y equals mx plus b. And we're using this x, this y, this m. So y is 30.4 equals 0.8 times x, which is 8, plus b. And now if I multiply 0.8 times 8, if you do that multiplication, you get 6.4. And then I'm going to use inverse operations and subtract 6.4 from each side. And 30.4 minus 6.4 is just 24. So I have 24 equals b. So now I have my equation, y equals 0.8x plus 24. And in the activity you're going to do later, you're going to be asked to interpret that and talk about what it means in the equation. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of things. First of all, what does this y-intercept mean? This y-intercept of 24 means that at 0 weeks, this boa constrictor was 24 inches long. Okay, this 0.8 means that this boa constrictor is growing 0.8 inches every week, because remember, our slope is the change in y, so it's the change in inches over the change in x, which in this case is weeks. So it's gaining 0, and it's positive, so it's gaining, not losing. It's gaining 0.8 inches every week. We could also say, here looking at this graph, that they kept their record up to 48 weeks, and we could substitute 48 in and get a number there, but it was close to 64 inches, not quite. Okay? Those are the things that we can talk about. You could interpret these points that at 8 weeks it was 30.4 inches long. Of course, that's told up there. The important thing that I want you to understand is what the 0.8 and the 24 mean in context. So this equation tells us that at the time they started measuring, so at 0 weeks, the boa constrictor was 24 inches long, and that the boa constrictor has been growing at a rate of 0.8 inches every week.